we'd like to begin with sharing our marriage journey. It all began with an invitation by my friend to go on a blind date with Rich. I really didn't want to go on any more dates because after a 4-year relationship that I had just broken up, and it was a rocky one. But she persuaded me to go. It was Halloween. Rich was dressed as a caveman with a wild wig and facial hair that was not glued on too evenly. And I dressed as a harem girl with many black chiffon scarves. It was truly a blind date, as we really didn't know how each other looked. But he was such a gentleman. He treated me with such respect, and I saw a kindness in him. I felt special just being with him.
Of course, I was physically attracted to Fran, but it was the special love I felt from her and how she cared about others. In retrospect, I had a Catholic education. I knew about Jesus, but I did not know Jesus and how much he really loved me. I was really seeing God's love shining through her and how she loved others.
In my late teens, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called myasthenia gravis, a grave muscle disease. My father said I'd be lucky to find someone to marry me. I felt like I was a burden to my family. I had very low self-esteem. When Rich started to show more interest in me, I confessed to him about my disease. He said, "Don't worry, we'll work it out." After dating a year, he proposed. We were married a year later. I felt an unconditional love from Rich like never before, and within 5 years into our marriage, I went into remission. Now, we were blessed with 3 children during the first 10 years of our marriage, 2 daughters and a son. Rich had a steady job, and all was well. One day, though, Rich came home and said a friend of work invited him to go to the racetrack. I was taken back. I immediately expressed my concern. Rich was already working many hours of overtime at UPS, and I was feeling the burden and the challenges of taking care of our 3 children. He was coming home later and later, several times a week when the horses were running. The more I confronted Rich about gambling, the more he tried to justify it. He says, "But I don't hunt, I don't go to the bar, I don't play golf. This is just a hobby." I couldn't seem to connect with him emotionally. Although Rich never called me a nag, I once heard that nagging is worse than being nibbled to death by a duck. Now, while out to lunch with a dear friend of mine, she told me about an experience she had on a marriage encounter weekend. That was 17 years into our marriage when I persuaded Rich into going, thinking, oh, maybe it'll help our marriage, and maybe he'll decide to stop gambling. Rich said, ooh, I better take some books with me so I can catch up on my reading on the weekend. We had 2 different thoughts. But there we learned tools of communication, to communicate in a safe way. I was able to tell Rich that I felt like I was running a marathon, and I'm not a runner, and I was completely exhausted, and I didn't know how long I could continue. Rich listened, and he validated my feelings. I felt so much hope. I thought he would immediately quit gambling, and we would just begin again. But that didn't happen. But while on that weekend, though, God planted a seed. We felt his warm embrace.
I continued to gamble and to struggle with gambling, even though we were attending a monthly marriage enrichment follow-up group. It was like walking on a tightrope, trying to satisfy my family needs and my desire to gamble. I tried to run my life on my own willpower, thinking I could control Fran and manipulate her because I wanted to have my own way. I became depressed. I was reaching my bottom. I cried out to God from the interior of my heart. I knew I needed to change. I didn't want to lose Fran's special love. I met a man who invited me to a Christian men's prayer group. I confessed to them about my gambling addiction. Notice I said addiction, a realization that I did not admit before. They prayed for me, over me, and with me. I was convicted. Coming home from that meeting, I was overwhelmed. Tears were streaming down my eyes when I realized how much I hurt Fran and our children and offended God during the 15 years I gambled. That group of men held me accountable. Eventually, I stopped all forms of gambling. We have the power to choose, but we do not have the power to choose our consequences. While gambling, I not only lost money, but I stole precious time with our family, especially affecting my relationship with our son. Once at a World Marriage Day, Deacon Bob Ovia spoke of praying together as a couple. We heard the statistics when couples who attend church regularly and pray together, there's less than a 2% divorce rate. This brought us down to our knees, and we began to pray together. Praying together, seeking God's will for our lives brought peace, God's mercy, healing, and forgiveness. We felt a unity in our marriage like we never did before. We felt called to be involved in Marriage Encounter and marriage ministries in our church. Because we were broken, God uses crackpots. We were able to reach out to others going through difficult times with compassion and hope. When we reached out to others with God's mercy, His mercy came back to us through them. We were invited to be involved in Retrovi and agreed to attend a Retrovi weekend. It is a wonderful ministry for troubled marriages with a history of great success. There we experienced a deeper healing. God not only showed us His mercy and forgiveness, but we were able to forgive ourselves. We looked forward to attending their monthly meetings. In retrospect, we keep our marriage strong, and we attribute this to attending monthly marriages enrichment groups for the last 33 years. We believe we grow until we go.
You know, when we first met, we were so much in love. And now love, L-U-V, also means to us a better way to communicate. L for listen, U for understand, and V for validate. When Rich listens to me, and he is a good listener, I feel special and valued. And I can see how he unselfishly wants to give back. Jesus continues to pour out His love and mercy as we serve together here at the Divine Mercy Center. When we pray together, it increases our intimacy and helps us grow in our faith, our hope, and our love. We are grateful for the little miracles that have happened and the blessings in our lives and for the relationships we have made here and the joy and laughter we share together.
Genesis 2:18 says, "It is not good for man to be alone. I will make him a suitable partner." We men need a helper to bring out the best in us, to really help us, and we need to listen to, 90% of the time Fran is right. So bring out the best in us and help us get to heaven. Because an altar implies the sacrifice, and true marital love, according to God's plan, requires that we sacrifice our selfish desires to work in unity. Easy to say, difficult to do. After 50 years of marriage, we are grateful for the love and joy we have for each other, our family, others, and here at Divine Mercy.
We understand there are circumstances that a marriage cannot be restored, but over 90% of marriages can be saved. Perseverance is the key. Don't ever give up. One special way we have to celebrate your marriage is to attend a World Marriage Day. It's like a mini retreat day. You can register yourself or give it as a gift for some couple that you know for St. Valentine's Day. The second Sunday of each February has been designated as a day to celebrate marriage and has been given an apostolic blessing by Pope St. John Paul II. So we invite you to come. It is a fun day. There are flyers in the fellowship hall, and you can also check it out online at worldmarriageday.org and register there, even through your cell phone, as Brian has advised. We'll be around if you have any questions, too.
After our marriage encounter weekend 34 years ago, I turned to Fran and said, "Don't ever think you could get me to share anything about our lives. No way, Jose. Not in my lifetime. But God has a plan for our marriage." And I remember the words of Our Lady at, ironically, a wedding. "Do what He tells you." And together we say, "Jesus, I trust in you."
About the day coming up, the date?
Yes, it is Sunday, February 8th, at the San Marino Club. From 3 o'clock it begins. We have Father Ben Ludke will speak, plus a young married couple who marriage was broken, and they share how they were able to reconcile and the healing. It has we have a 6-course meal. After the dinner, the speakers, which wouldn't be more than 35 minutes, and then we offer live music and dancing for your listening or dancing pleasure. It is $55 per couple to cover the both of you until January 30, and then after that, the registration fee is $65 per couple. Again, all the information is online, worldmarriageday.org.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you for letting us share.
Thank you.